Does how we treat animals in video games have any real world bearing on how we treat animals in real life?
Maybe.
Is violence against animals in games a problem? Are animal violence mechanics even necessary to have fun in
No.
games? These are all questions I've been thinking about for a long time and been wanting to make a video about for a long time. After the response to the Pal World section of my Good Vegan News video from back in February, I thought that it was finally time. I've done a number of videos
Our
on my
world.
channel about how animals and animal foods are represented in media, mostly film and TV. And since we're at a point now where the gaming industry has surpassed the film and music industries combined in terms of global
That
revenue
scares me.
generated, this topic feels more relevant than ever and something that will only become more and more a part of our lives.
Is gaming everyone games now, huh? Everyone likes to play these video games. I remember when I was a kid, I liked playing video games, but not everybody liked playing video games. Everybody likes playing video games now, right? They're in love with it. Oddworld, Soulstorm, playing do they is arguably the most vegan entry in the Oddworld franchise. Either that or Abe's. Do they? Is there animal violence in Abe's Oddworld?
In this video, I'm narrowing my lens of focus to 4
Here's
games:
a
Stardew
non-gamer. Thank
Valley,
you.
Animal Crossing, Pal World,
I
and
played
Breath of the
chess.
Wild / Tears of the Kingdom. For the sake of this video, I'm only going to be referring to Breath of the Wild, but a lot of the things I refer to apply to Tears of the Kingdom as well. This is a huge topic that could honestly span multiple videos, but to keep it as simple as possible, I've broken things down
Oh
into the
no.
following sections: consumable food items in games and how animal foods are incorporated, portrayal of animals as characters and enemies, use of animals in game mechanics, if animal treatment in games has
Oh my
real-world
gosh.
implications, and whether or not video games can be vegan-friendly. I first want to go briefly into the history of my relationship with video games to give a little context. Like many children of the 90s, I wasn't allowed to play video games at my house. The closest thing we were allowed were sort of educational genre computer games. Shout out to the Magic School Bus, shout out Oregon Trail, shout out Operation Neptune. Video games were something I only got glimpses of at friends' houses, and there were some I really liked. I absolutely loved Crash
Oh,
Bandicoot, and
I
I
remember
would
that one.
beg my friend to play it whenever I was at her
That was a
house.
fun one.
Sometimes she'd let me, sometimes she wouldn't. As I got older, I became a person who didn't really care about games / maybe even had a negative opinion of them. That all changed when I met my boyfriend in 2016, who is a game designer and very passionate about games. Through him, I discovered a love for gaming, especially because the first full year we were dating, 2017, was a very good year for games. It's the year Breath of the Wild, Stardew Valley, and Mario Odyssey came out. I've learned there's a very specific type of game I like, which I describe
Nintendo
as open
games.
world adventure and cozy games, and also apparently farming sims. My favorite games are pretty much all Nintendo games, with the exception of Stardew Valley, and these are the games I'm most familiar with, which is why I've chosen to focus on them in this video. So let's talk about consumable food items and how animal foods are incorporated. Food in video games is often used to restore health and stamina. They're things you need to keep the player healthy and prevent them from dying. Meat, primarily chicken, is historically the classic food you would eat to gain health in video games, which sort of makes a statement to players that meat is the be-all end-all healthiest food. In Breath of the Wild, I was pretty pleasantly surprised that you can get equal amounts of health from plant and animal foods. In fact, some of the most health restoring items in the game, the Big Hearty Truffle and the Big Hearty Radish, are plants. And in general, for any animal food that gives a certain power or ability, there's usually a plant counterpart. For example, a Staminoka bass gives you stamina when cooked, but Stamella shrooms will do the same thing, although not in the exact same amount. There are also some hardy
It's like you're having to do. But can you take a supplement? Can you just supplement? Why can't you just supplement like with a spell or something? The new RoboCop game was amazing. There's a RoboCop game. I didn't even know that. I still play Neopets. There's kinds of vegan food for my shoiru. I don't even know what that is, man. Crash Bandicoot is one that doesn't have a terrific story, but I just love. I remember that game. I just remember them like there was a car part. What's your favorite game? My favorite game is Nintendo. My favorite game is Nintendo too. Yeah. My favorite game, Legend of Zelda, has golden teachers confirmed. Indeed. Crash Bandicoot, Treasure Island, Disney. I remember Dexter and Jax was a fun game. I don't know. I like the fighting games actually. I didn't really like some of the story games and stuff, but some of that stuff, like you just sit there and wait. You spend hours and hours and hours and hours on these games. Who the fuck has time for that? No wonder no one has any time. Jack and Dexter. Yeah, that one. That was a fun game. Do you remember that game? I thought that was a good game. GTA. I played GTA 3 and that was the last one I played. I thought it was pretty cool and that was the last one I ever played. I played 1, 2, and 3. and then I grew up. But I was already kind of a grown up when those came out. But they're kind of made for grown ups. Those were like back then. Back then, there weren't so many grown up person games. Yeah, I I like Tekken. I liked Mortal Kombat. I like the racing games. I like the racing Need for Speed and all those. I like those games. But and the, the Mario Kart. Everyone, I'm dead for Mario Kart. Mario Kart, man, that is a game. I love Mario Kart. But in Mario Kart, I don't remember if there's really. Oh, you could throw a squid on somebody. That's animal exploitation. A squid. You could throw a squid on somebody. But I think that's the only kind of animal thing that you can hurt somebody with. Yeah. I didn't know there was a drop it. We should have a vegan gains video game open world with a compelling story and side missions. What the hell?
The animal ingredients, but actually
Already
5 out of 8
durian.
hardy ingredients in the game are plants. I appreciate that Breath of the Wild gives pretty equal weight to plant and animal foods, not positioning either one as the ultimate healthiest food. In Stardew Valley, all of the consumable food items and recipes you can make fall under the category of pescatarian. There is no meat in the game for land animals. However, there are farm animals in the game and you can collect their byproducts, and this is something we'll discuss in a later section. In Animal Crossing New Horizons, again, all the foods you can make are pescatarian. There's no meat from land animals, but food in Animal Crossing isn't nearly as important as food in Breath of the Wild, for example. Really, the only thing you need energy for in Animal Crossing is digging up trees and destroying rocks on your island. On the topic of Animal Crossing, let's get into the use of animals as characters. Animals are omnipresent in Animal Crossing New Horizons, as the whole premise of the game is you move to an island and all the other villagers are animals. In fact, you as the player are the only human in the whole game. The game paints a pretty picture of everyone living in harmony, even though some of these animals are species humans would exploit in real life. So it's all a bit humane washed, but then again, it is aimed at a younger audience than a game like Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, there are these animalistic races that live in the different regions. The Zora people are an aquatic folk who possess fish and amphibian-like traits, including fins, webbed feet, and gills. Then there's the Rito, who are people who possess avian features, including wings, which give them the ability of flight. Each region has a town with an inn, and Rito Village is sort of this big, elaborate treehouse. The inn in Rito Village is called Swallow's Roost, and when you visit, you're informed you can stay in a standard bed or a Rito down bed for an upcharge. When Link, the main character, asks what a Rito down bed is, he's informed it's made using only genuine Rito feathers. Now, of course, this stuck out to me because the down industry is notoriously inhumane, with a majority of ducks and geese coming from factory farms, being plucked alive, which is extremely cruel and painful, and then being slaughtered at just a few weeks or months old for meat or foie gras, despite having a natural lifespan of over a decade. So you're telling me that while some of the Rito are living in this idyllic treehouse, somewhere else, maybe outside the borders of the game's map, there's a factory farm where all the Rito down is being farmed. This is a prime example of a game humane washing a real world thing that happens and is horrifically cruel. And someone could say, oh, well, maybe they just use the feathers that fall off the Rito naturally.
Danny Logic would love that. Yeah, they just go into the forest and they find feathers that have been abandoned, so they could just grab that and they can put it in. I'm lagging. What do you mean I'm lagging? How am I lagging? How could that happen? Yeah, lifting feather logic. Exactly. It works perfectly. I mean, it says I have Wi-Fi. I gotta forge on. If I lag, I'm sorry. I didn't try to do a vegan playthrough of Breathe the Wild, but I am in Tears of the Kingdom. You have how do you guys have so much time to do it? I don't understand. Patrick Baboumian is working on the first proper animal rights video game. It's called Empty Cages Total Liberation and looks real cool. It's called Empty Cages Total Liberation? Really? And the strongman's working on it? How is he working on it? What's he doing? Does Patrick Baboumian, he could program? He knows how to make video games now? How does he know how to make video games? I thought he was just a weightlifter. Amazing. Yeah, hypotheticals. Bro, do you even Ethernet? I don't even think there is a way to plug into the Ether. I don't even see an Ethernet plug, but I'd have to buy an adapter anyway. I'm terribly sorry that this is what it is. Sky, would you play the Vegan Games video game? No. And would you lend your likeness and voice acting as a potential side character? Sure. But I mean, what would be the game? I own you. I own you. The guy just yells, answer the question, and then that's over. And then you bite the bullet saying something ridiculous like you would end the Holocaust by pushing a button and everybody dies except for the Holocaust victims. Something along those lines. Oh, you know what? The Vegan Gains video game should be a violent video game where the character goes around killing carnivores. That should be the video game. You kill the carnivores, but only certain ones. And if you kill the wrong one, then you lose points. But if you kill the right ones, you win points. And in the end, suffering will be weighed against joy. And if you have a net utility, then you win. That's how at the end, you won't know until it's over. After you play for about 170 hours killing carnivores, then the calculus will take place and they'll see if you had a net utility on planet Earth by killing carnivores. What do you think? Think that would work? Yeah, kills carnies. That's it. We're gonna kill. It's just a video game where they kill carnies. Also stomps babies. Yes, also stomps babies. Of course, yes. Sky, you would love this vid. Omar, I can't click on that vid though. Dang it, I can't do it. But
But that, in and of itself, is a humane washed representation of the down industry. The only way to acquire enough feathers to fill an entire bed with them, realistically, would be a scenario like also animal-like enemies. The main enemy types in Breath of the Wild are bokoblins, moblins, and lizalfos. There are a ton of other enemy types, but these are the most common ones. And they all sort of resemble animals. Bokoblins kind of resemble pigs and make pig-like sounds like snorts and squeals. Lizalfos resemble lizards and make reptilian sounds. With moblins, it's harder to say what they resemble. I'd say somewhat of an anteater dog hybrid. In past Zelda games, moblins have actually been represented as more explicitly dog-like and pig-like. The origin of these creatures is that they seem to have been possessed by an evil malice at some point. For me, although these creatures have animal-like qualities, it's easier for me to justify killing them, I guess because they're portrayed as evil and trying to kill me. Although I do definitely have moments where I feel bad because of the ways they react to being hurt, feeling vaguely animal-like. Now, of course, we have to talk about Pal World because it's more of a recent game and there's been more recent controversy around it. In Pal World, the goal is to collect these animal-like creatures called pals, which you then force to work for you and help you in various ways.
It's so funny. Like, you beat these animals. That's the game. You beat these animals and make them work for you. Like, how is this a game? It's crazy. And the level boss is an Ephelis style red button. Yes, that's the level boss. Would you push the button? You can program hypotheticals. Let's not forget about the amazing talent. You can program at the end of every level, you have to push the red button or don't push the red button. But in the end, is there a net utility? You don't know until it's over. That sound is very sounds like pigs, I guess.
You collect them is by essentially hitting them or hurting them in some way until they're weak enough to capture. They cry when they're getting hit. They react much like real life animals would. And you can kill them, but you're mainly trying to capture them so they can work for you. Now, again, these aren't technically animals, but many of them have undeniable resemblances to certain animals, and the names confirm this connection. And also, they're not really enemies per se, they're more tools you can use, but like I said, some will try to hurt you or fight you. We will talk more about Pal World later in the video, but for now, let's get into the use of animals within game mechanics. In video games, there are various mechanics and challenges that ask the player to interact with animals in certain ways and sometimes kill them. In Breath of the Wild, since pretty much the entire game takes place in an open outdoor landscape, there are plenty of wild animals that you encounter like deer, boar, goats, and many others. For the most part, these animals completely leave you alone and it's your choice how you want to interact with them. When I play, I avoid killing these animals when I encounter them. And I am always surprised when I watch gameplay footage of other people playing and they will literally kill every single animal they encounter. And I sort of do wonder about the psychology of that. Like, why do some people go out of their way to avoid it? Some people go out of their way to do it. Does that translate at all into people's real world views on animal exploitation? I really don't know. I'm just wondering. In general, there's really no reason to kill these wild animals unless there's something.
Maybe we should be studying how people play video games and determining whether or not they're psychopaths and whether or not they're going to be school shooters. I guarantee you the school shooters all shoot all of the animals. You could probably tell who's gonna light up a school by how they play these video games, don't you think? Like, if you're in GTA whatever and you're killing the hookers over and over again and that's like what you love to do in that game, I think that there might be another problem, dude. Like, that's not really what the game's about. Like, what are you doing? Crazy. I'd be the Joker of the Vegan Gains video game. You'd just be taking taking veganism into your own hands, and I'd be the vegan mom taking veganism into your own hands. Hmm. Is Zelda even in the Zelda games anymore? Is Princess Zelda even in them?
Like a fetch quest where someone asks you like, hey, could you go bring me some wild boar meat, and then you go and do that. But even then, those are side quests and you can always choose not to do them. These animals I'm talking about aren't really a major part of the gameplay. They're more part of the ambiance of the game. But a major mechanic in Breath of the Wild is horseback riding. In real life, horseback riding is considered to be unethical for many reasons, the main one being that horses can't consent to being ridden. We have no way of knowing what horseback riding is actually like for horses, how much pain they're in, what it's like to have a human adult sitting on their back, not to
Oh,
mention the many
nice.
harmful breeding practices and inhumane treatment within the industry where horses are often seen as money-making machines and not sentient creatures.
Always.
Outside of my real-world views on horseback riding, I never found the horseback riding experience in Breath of the Wild to be that fun or useful. I found myself mostly wanting to be on foot while playing, but I feel like I'm in the minority because people really seem to love and heavily utilize the horseback riding mechanic. You can also get a horse to ride in Stardew Valley. It's not as big a part of the game though. And because the game is a farming simulator, you can have farm animals as part of the game. While the game starts out heavily encouraging you to grow fruit and vegetables, at a certain point after you've upgraded your farm, you can buy farm animals like chickens, cows, pigs, and goats. You then build up relationships with these animals by taking care of them and petting them, and eventually they start producing items you can take, including eggs, milk, feathers, wool, truffles, etc. Now this alone presents a pretty humane washed version of animal agriculture. All you have to do is acquire a cow or goat, and eventually it will just start producing milk for you. It kind of promotes the magically milk producing misconception about cows. In reality, milk production
I mean, it's true. People believe this crazy shit. They think that that's how it works. They believe this shit. It's insane that they actually think this is real. Would you have to tell them that they're participating in a study that the study's about? I don't know. Maybe you could like maybe Microsoft can just collect data. I mean, why can't they just collect data on who's the crazy person? There's somebody doing some real crazy shit in this game, boss. Hey, boss! Boss, I think someone's doing something crazy with this game, boss. They're killing every prostitute they come across. And you're like, oh, yeah, maybe we should report that motherfucker to the FBI, or just like keep an eye on that one. If he starts acting weird, if all of a sudden the gameplay drops off, and I don't know, cross reference him with the national gun registry, as if that's a thing. Did you hear that a bunch of cops got shot today in North Carolina? A bunch of cops got shot today because they reported they wanted to see this person if they had the guns. They had some kind of gun violation, so they showed up and they all got shot. 5 officers shot, 3 dead in North Carolina. Pretty hardcore. Yeah. I don't know if you'd have to tell them. I mean, we're just keeping data. We're just keeping data on how people play the game. I mean, I'm sure that they're already collecting all that stuff. I'm sure they're collecting all that data already when you're doing it. The hookas and beta are not real humans. Therefore, killing has nothing to do with your psychology. I don't know if you went around just doing that in the game. I think there might be something else going on. Regardless if the horse feels pain or not, the horse is treated as a slave. Exactly. They're always treated as money makers. That's the problem. And you have to break their spirit. So that's a yes, Kenny Simpson. I've been watching your outreach with that Jim Bunny. Very good. All right. I want to see that. All right. This has been fun, but I'm done with video games.